Our perception is what creates our reality, and our collective perception is what creates our society. The institutions who manage our society include media, government, and big business. So these are the institutions that control our perception. Perception dictates behavior, and if we allow these institutions to control our perception, then they control our behavior and society. So perception equals behavior, and collective behavior, perception made manifest, is what we call society. Control perception and you control the world. And you control the perception by programming the mind to perceive reality as you desire. If I were to label the current society of the United States, I would call it the liberal world order, the land of McDonald's, gay pride, and foreign wars. In history books, this is what our Neo-Roman Empire will be known for: fast food, an odd obsession with gay sex, and aggressive foreign wars. This is what our prevailing institutions have turned the American people into: vapid degenerates whose only intellectual pursuit involves obsessing over race-based politics. I'm sick of it. I don't want to be remembered as a typical denizen of this empire. If the majority of US citizens were to be disgusted by what the US empire has become, it would be overthrown, because we the citizens are the ones who manifest society through our beliefs and perception. The liberal world order currently labels the group of people who's disgusted by it as the alt-right or alt-light or far right. They hate this group of people because if the majority of Americans become alt-right, then they would overturn their empire. They literally would not tolerate their imposed society. I do not consider myself alt-right. I'm an infinite being having a finite human experience, but my avatar is someone the liberal world order may label as alt-right or alt-light. If the LWO were to draw a cartoon of an alt-right character, it would depict an individual who lacks the ability to self-perceive. It would be a maniacal caricature. However, this straw man that the LWO has created falls apart each day the society degrades further into absurdity. As the society falls further downward, this straw man is going to become more relatable and more endearing to the average person. I'll give you a recent example. The other day, the dean of students at a high school in Chicago brought butt plugs and dildos into a classroom of 14-year-olds and taught them how to lube them up using spit to have gay sex. It's a viral video where the dean is caught on a hidden camera talking about how cool his queer sex education is. When the school released a statement on this incident, they defended the dean and said a far-right organization was behind reporting it. The average American citizen is opposed to their 14-year-old being taught about butt plugs in school. So the liberal world order is beginning to cross a line where the average person, according to them, is quote-unquote far right. The LWO is essentially a ship of fools that more and more people are jumping off of as they become more debased. I used to laugh at people 7 years ago who said, if you legalize gay marriage, they'll teach kids how to have gay sex in schools. Me and the majority of people thought that was idiotic, so I'm completely floored by the fact that these perceived idiots were right. It's gotten to the point where I'm not upset at what Ye is saying, I'm more upset at what this dean is doing. I'm willing to bet the vast majority of people would agree with me too. I believe that the LWO is about to make things so degraded here that the average normie will literally have what they would consider an alt-right perspective. People can only gain this perspective when they truly see how bad the system really is. That's the one thing the alt-right would have in common. They all chose to go down that rabbit hole, like Alice in Wonderland. The alt-right could more accurately be described as Alice. I could say Neo, but that's kind of corny and not as accurate. Then by the time that the average person is what the mainstream media would consider alt-right, the LWO will fall, and the more moral system that replaces it will eventually become corrupt too. That's how Christianity came about. Christianity at first was pure and fringe, then became the dominant cultural narrative adopted by the normie, and it became corrupt. At the outer edges of polite society is where one always finds the best comedians, artists, geniuses, and visionaries. I probably sound slightly pretentious, but what I'm saying is society never reaches peak enlightenment. It's an infinite journey. However, the liberal world order believes they are the peak. The LWO believes it has built the metaphorical Tower of Babel and has usurped God. Not knowing that the journey to truth and to knowing God is enlightenment itself. How else would it be infinite unless it's the journey itself? If you agree with me, then you are someone who by definition has alternative opinions. Many people in the MSM would go even further with that definition and call you the ridiculous label alt-right, especially if you like Ye. Which brings me to the main part of this video. I believe there are only two ways to become popular in the entertainment industry. One, by making a metaphorical or literal deal with the devil, or two, by channeling God. One beauty of the modern age is you can accumulate some fame if you can channel God, if you consider that a beauty. That's how high quality art gets made. So now ask yourself, is Ye someone who became famous by making a deal with the devil or by channeling the good God? My gut tells me that Ye is someone who became famous by channeling God, or at the very least, God is giving Ye a chance to redeem himself. I'm not saying anything about the words Ye's been saying. I don't fully agree with everything he says. I just think Ye has been consistently channeling God for over a decade to make his popular music, and for some reason, God is controlling him to act like this. Because that's the definition of channeling. It's allowing yourself to be controlled by God. Remember in the movie Soul when they saw the spirits visiting the astral, but they were still alive, but in a flow state on Earth? I think the reason they had that scene is because when you channel, you're in a flow state, which means your spirit has left its body and it's back home. It's back on the other side with God, and your physical body reflects that. As above, so below. Going back to source will feel like being in a flow state. But anyways, what I'm saying is the pressure in our society is going to continually mount until everyone will begin to notice and comment on it, no matter how spiritual you are or how much you want to just stay out of it. You are eventually going to fall into a category, either for or against the system. We can call this the noticing of how bad things are. This is why Ye's plan might actually be good, because there's a veil over people's eyes in this country where they can't see how degraded things really are. Ye intends to shatter that veil. I also think that Ye knows the minions of the LWO better than most. The minions of the LWO literally think that the right are secret Nazis who pretend like they're not. That's not an exaggeration, they literally think this. So Ye saying out loud what the minions thought their opponents were hiding breaks that barrier. So now Ye is directly engaged with the LWO. Before, the lines in the sand were hard to see, but now they've been clearly drawn. Ye and his team have lit the gauntlet against the LWO. They just need enough people to now pick up a torch. So take your torch and post about it. They need our help. In this political climate, even people like Andrew Tate are considered alt-light. But at the end of the day, the alt-light isn't what the LWO fears the most. What the LWO fears the most is divine masculinity, because that's what fuels a revolution.